When you think about the best technical wrestlers in the history of professional wrestling, Bret Hart is pretty up there. If you're really honest, he's probably number 1, or at the very least number 2 behind Bryan Danielson. But man alive, what a match between those two would be if both men were in their prime. Back to the Hitman though. His wrestling career has been superb, and he very rarely had a bad match. The 1990s was a huge decade for Hart. He began the decade as a member of the Hart Foundation with his brother-in-law Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and they would put on tag team classics. However, he would become a singles competitor by 1991, and, like the 2018 film, a star was born. The Hitman won 5 WWE championships in the 90s, becoming just the second man to do so. But after an unsavoury ending to his WWE career because of the Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series 1997, perhaps you've heard of that, but I doubt it hardly ever gets brought up, the Hitman would join WCW. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be was a moniker Hart truly lived by, and at its peak in the 1990s, he was the very best in the business, and he showcased his skills against the very best in the business. Hart would often have several Match of the Year candidates of matches on a regular basis, which is a testament to his greatness. Welcome to Honor Wrestling Club, and today's video will be going back in time to the 90s and assessing year by year Bret Hart's best matches. This was an incredibly difficult list to make due to the sheer quantity of outstanding work Bret put on in the 90s, kind of like a modern day Will Ospreay, or should I say a 90s version of Will Ospreay. However, before you begin, do you want to be the best viewer there is, the best viewer there was, and the best viewer there ever will be? Then make sure that you click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell to never miss out on any of the content that we make here at Honor Wrestling Club. Did you do it? Yes? Well, then you are the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Thank you. 2 thumbs up. Now, on with the list. Starting out 1990, the best match that Bret had that year was at SummerSlam in an incredible tag team match of the Hart Foundation versus Demolition. This was definitely the best match that Crush was ever a part of, this match, but man alive did Bret know how to create drama and tension using psychology. The Hart Foundation was looking to recapture their tag team championships, and they challenged Demolition for the titles in a 2 out of 3 falls match at SummerSlam 1990. Axe's health wasn't in the best shape, so it wasn't proper Demolition prime, and this was due to an allergic reaction to shellfish. Nope, that's not a lie. Therefore, Crush stepped in for Axe whilst he teamed up with Smash. This was tag team wrestling at its finest. Neither team had a refusal to give up with a third fall required, as the scores were tied at 1-4 apiece, as is often the way with tag team matches. Nevertheless, Axe attempted to interfere, but the Road Warriors made their presence felt, which aided the Hart Foundation to successfully defeat the 3rd longest reigning tag team champions ever in an incredible and hard-fought battle. And this was the match where they would debut their iconic jackets, the Hart Foundation. Moving on to 1991 though, we now have, again, SummerSlam. We have Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. This was Bret's first proper test as a singles competitor, and that was to challenge Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam 1991. And one of the best matches in the history of Summer's biggest party. Bret and Perfect were tailor-made for each other, as both are remarkable in-ring technicians. Unfortunately, Perfect did come into this bout with an injured back. Not that you would know it, as Curt Hennig is one of the most underappreciated wrestlers ever, but he did the honourable thing and did the job for Bret. The Hitman ended Perfect's Intercontinental Championship reign with the Sharpshooter, which was locked in an ingenious way in his first singles pay-per-view match, which was the best way for Hart's singles run to get underway. I also have a little nitpick about the match. I would have loved for the ref to wait a little bit longer before ringing the bell, but that's a small blemish on this shining star. In 1992, we have SummerSlam again, as Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog. SummerSlam again? What is it about this event that brings out the best in Bret? 1992 was an excellent year for the Hitman, and the first one where people went, you know what, this Canadian fella might have a little something, you know. As he would capture his first WWE Championship, and rightfully so, as this was the year where he really showed his ability as a singles star. His match with Shawn Michaels at the Survivor Series event was magnificent. It does get overshadowed by another match at Survivor Series between the pair, as was his Intercontinental Championship bout with Roddy Piper at Mania 8. However, Bret's Intercontinental title defence against his brother-in-law, the British Bulldog, at SummerSlam was the most memorable. 80,000 fans, in big air quotes, jam-packed Wembley Stadium in London, England. Bulldog was the hometown favourite, as you'd expect, and he had tons of pressure to deliver. Moreover, Hart dropped the Intercontinental Championship to Bulldog in the main event that did go on after the excellent WWE title match between Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. But months later, Bret would go on to win his first WWE Championship by beating Ric Flair. When you know the background of this match as well, it gets even better. You see, Davey Boy had spent his time prepping for this match by smoking a lot of weed with Jim Neidhart, the best way to prep for a wrestling match, and admitted early on in the match he'd forgotten pretty much the entire thing. So Bret then had to carry his brother-in-law to one of the best matches of all time. Especially we Brits love this one. 1993 though, we have Bret versus Mr. Perfect again, this time at King of the Ring. Fans were treated to one of the greatest matches in the history of the King of the Ring tournament in 1993, when Bret Hart collided with Mr. Perfect in the semi-finals. These two again, what an interesting formula. You put two very good wrestlers together and then just let them wrestle. Interesting. I wonder if there's anything in that. Anyway, the pair of two-time Intercontinental Champions put on a clinic with a stake in the King of the Ring final on the line. Both enjoyed spells of dominance, and it was good to see Perfect operating on such a high level, considering the injury problems he was faced with. Nonetheless, Perfect thought he had done enough to see off the Hitman with a small package, but it was no avail with Hart countering it, and he would book his spot in the King of the Ring tournament final to face off against Bam Bam Bigelow, before he would eventually win the whole tournament and become the first official King of the Ring winner. In 1994, we have Bret versus Owen at SummerSlam. The rivalry between Bret Hart and his younger brother Owen reached its fever pitch at SummerSlam 1994 in a steel cage match with the Hitman's WWE Championship up for grabs. The Hart family was at ringside to watch all the drama unfold. Their WrestleMania 10 epic with Owen winning was spectacular, but at SummerSlam they somehow managed to outdo it. Owen came into this match full of confidence as he had won the 1994 King of the Ring tournament, emulating his brother, and was declaring himself as the true King of Hearts, whilst Bret was reigning and defending WWE Champion following his success at WrestleMania 10. The two hit a home run, but Owen failed to take the WWE Championship away from Bret, as the excellence of execution would escape the cage with Owen helpless as Bret had trapped his legs inside the cage. This cage was one of the only times the WWE's stupid rule of you can win by escaping the cage really worked, as both men are quick and nimble as cats, so they could probably fly around the ring to either try and sneak a win or stop their brother from stealing the win. It's the only Dave Meltzer 5-star rated match in SummerSlam history as well, if that means anything to you. I would say go and check this one out, as it is amazing. In 1995, we have Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at In Your House Seasons Beatings. Although Bret and the British Bulldog SummerSlam 1992 clash gets spoken about fairly so, nothing away from that match, their collision course at In Your House Seasons Beatings 3 years later in December of 1995 was just as good, if not even better. Hart's newly won WWE Championship was on the line, and the dynamics were clearer this time, as Bulldog was the much clearer heel. There was a turning point in the match where Bulldog had the advantage, as Hart had lost buckets of blood when Bulldog rammed him headfirst into the post. Nevertheless, despite Bulldog's efforts, it wasn't to be, with Hart finding a way to retain the WWE Championship. This is one of the best matches of the In Your House pay-per-view concept's lineage, up there with the first Hell in a Cell match and Michaels vs Mankind. In 1996, we have Bret Hart vs Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series 1996. Bret Hart has undertaken a very well-earned 6-ish month sabbatical following his WWE Championship reign ending to Shawn Michaels in the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12. Returning in around about November, he was attempting to reclaim his title. However, whilst he was away, there was a certain bald-headed Texan snake who had been gaining momentum and popularity in Hart's absence. This led to the pair having a match at Survivor Series 1996, where the winner earned a future WWE Championship title shot. Austin was the top heel in the business, but would begin to show some of the signs of the babyface he would become, as he began to push Bret's buttons upon his return to WWE. This was an outstanding matchup. Austin attempted to finish Hart off several times, including the only stunner cell that really looked like it hurt, but he would fail in his efforts, with Hart going on to prevail in his return match at WWE by using the same finish as his excellent match against Roddy Piper at Mania 8. An argument could be made that this one is even better than the Mania 13 clash due to the more clearly defined roles in this match. And speaking of the Mania 13 clash, because in at 1997 we have Bret vs Austin again at Mania 13. Obviously, what else could it be this year? WrestleMania 13 was underwhelming to say the least. I mean, here are some of the other matches that the event had on offer. You have the worst version of The Rock versus the worst version of Rikishi. You have Sid failing not to crap himself in the main event against The Undertaker in the front of the quietest audience you'll ever hear, and a very short Chicago street fight between LOD and Ahmed Johnson and the Nation of Domination. I mean, none of that particularly screams WrestleMania classic, but thankfully, or maybe unthankfully, depending on your view of things, Bret Hart and Steve Austin saved the show from being a catastrophic disaster. And Ken Shamrock was a special guest referee in those shorts, in this 5-star epic which was contested under submission match rules. Hart showed everyone why he is one of the all-time greats, and Austin lived with him every step of the way. The image of Austin's face pouring with blood as he's pressing up is iconic, and rightfully so. It's genuinely the Mount Rushmore of wrestling imagery. This is the Lincoln position. Nevertheless, Hart prevailed, but Austin became a major star that night, as the pair would switch roles, and Hart would become a heel, and Austin would become a babyface, in probably the best double turn in wrestling history. And that finishes up on WWE, Bret. Now we're into WCW territory. Woo, WCW. Because in at 1998, we have Bret Hart versus Ric Flair at Sold Out. 2 months following the screwjob, Bret Hart's 60-day no-compete clause had expired, and he found himself engaged in a rivalry with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, following his debut at Starrcade 1997 and his involvement in the main event of Hulk Hogan vs Sting. I mean, he obviously wasn't going to feud with Hogan. Let's not be silly here. However, back to his feud with Flair. At Sold Out 1998, Hart wrestled his first match in WCW against Flair. Two of the greatest wrestlers to lace up a pair of boots had an excellent match here, following up their Iron Man match from back in 1992 over the WWE title. Neither were in their primes, but it was one of Hart's best matches in his underwhelming WCW run. Flair attempted to cinch in the figure 4 leg lock, but Bret Hart managed to pick up a near fall here. Flair pushed Hart hard in the near 20-minute epic, and Hart's sharpshooter ensured that he would open his WCW career with a win. Good start to his WCW run this, shame about the rest of it. However, there was a shining light in 1999, as he would have a match on the February 22nd episode of Nitro against Booker T. You see, Booker T was beginning to emerge as a main eventer in WCW, a true homegrown talent for WCW, and he collided with Bret Hart on the February 22nd, 1999 edition of Nitro. The Hitman applied his style to wrestling into the match early on, and he dominated large portions of the bout, as you'd expect. Hart had to be alert, and Booker managed to connect with the scissor kick. However, Bret kicked out of it. Fans were heavily invested in this bout, and Hart was unable to put Booker away with the sharpshooter. Ultimately, Booker earned a monumental and shocking victory over the Hitman, which led to him becoming the #1 contender for the WCW United States Championship. And there you have it. There is our list. So what do you think? Did we miss any Bret matches? And what is your favourite Bret Hart match ever? Be sure to let me know in the comments section down below. Also be sure that you click the like button, you share this video around with your friends, and yet you subscribe to Honor Wrestling Club. That's all for today's video. I'd just like to thank you for watching and welcome you to the club. See ya!